Hello, my name is Corey Ward, and for my final organizational interview project, I chose to interview Chad Steengraff of LinkedIn. Uh, Chad Steengraff is a close acquaintance of mine. He is my girlfriend's dad, and he currently lives in Silicon Valley in California. Where he works, obviously, is LinkedIn. There he is a data visualist, which means that he takes data that is presented to him from data analysts and he transcribes it in a way that upper management and corporate can digest and interpret data. So he'll take data and make charts, spreadsheets, whatever resource that they need to get the information down. And he's been at this institution for 3 years, and previously he'd worked for other tech firms such as Covad and Yahoo. Now, the theme that I wanted to revolve my interview around was organizational culture, and really how it applied to LinkedIn, whether or not it was effective. The sub-themes that I delved into as well, and I'd like to define them as well, are reality shock, which is the sudden realization that what someone took for granted in their previous organization is not what people take for granted in their new organization. I also wanted to talk to him about cultural traffic, which is where new members to an organization bring in a complex and varying set of understanding with them. And these imported perspectives change as the surrounding cultures change. Also talked about subcultures within LinkedIn. And subcultures are clusters of employees who regularly communicate with one another, but not by other clusters. This creates a collection of distinct but connected subcultures. I also wanted to talk about identity within LinkedIn and identifying with LinkedIn. An identity is defined as, in this case, people having a continued connection to the organization as an important part of who they are as people. So first, I wanted to get a background on his previous work experience prior to the tech industry. And before the tech industry, he had worked in meat delivery. So going from meat delivery to the tech industry was quite the reality shock. He had pretty much his only formal work experience was in meat delivery, where informal communication techniques were dominant. And entering the tech industry, they had rigid standards for communication. And that sort of provided him with this sort of reality shock because obviously that can take a lot of understanding to get used to. But he said that once he was able to master this sort of communication, he was really able to thrive in the environment. He also experienced reality shock going from Covad and Yahoo to LinkedIn due to the amount of time he had spent at these institutions. He'd worked at Covad and Yahoo for 7 years each, so he had developed many different sets of norms and standard practices that he had to change up when going to work at LinkedIn. I also asked Mr. Steengraff about the turnover at LinkedIn to get an idea of the cultural traffic, and he said that there's over 7,000 current employees at his location in LinkedIn. They're located on a campus in Sunnyvale, California, and he said there's high turnover in some departments, such as software engineering. And I asked him how this affected communication. He said it's just difficult to integrate new people all the time, but when they're in a department such as software engineering, the culture is not necessarily what's dominant. He said it's more of the technical abilities of the people within the department. And another facet of cultural traffic present at LinkedIn is that they were recently acquired by Microsoft. And he said that Microsoft employees have been brought in to work with LinkedIn, and that's sort of changed the company culture a little bit because of the change in personnel. I also asked him about the different sets of subcultures that exist within LinkedIn. And when I asked him about the different departments, he said there's so many different departments that have different sorts of fields to them, such as HR has a different sort of atmosphere than the software engineers, and then them as opposed to the data analysts. But he said that all these departments are sort of different in some ways, but they all contribute to the overall company culture, which I'm about to detail next. Now, the identifying with LinkedIn. I wanted to know if people really identified with LinkedIn who worked there, and if it was an effective method of providing company culture. Then the ways that he said LinkedIn cultivates this is by sending company newsletters, which gets everyone on a consistent basis on keeping up with the company. LinkedIn also schedules team building events. He said that they pour a lot of time and effort into these team building events so that they're not they don't feel cheap or just obligated to do them. They're actually excited to go do them, and that they plan events that are not limited to just team building. He said that they will provide surprise break parties, or they'll have parties for almost any occasion because they want to promote this inclusive and family-like identity. And he said this is a really effective way of motivating and keeping control over the culture within the company. And that is my presentation. I had a great conversation with Chad, and provided a lot of insight into the idea of organizational culture. Thank you for listening.